Nation. Thank you so much.
I know you weren't expecting this. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Welcome to the Scoreboard. At the 11 o'clock hour. Who'd have thought? Here we are. We are live. Yes, no disclaimer today. I am live. I am in studio. I am sitting at the chair, sitting by the phones, talking about the world of sports with you all here in the area. We're going to have a fun day today. 844-STUDIO-4. Man, it's been a while since I read that number for you guys. 844-788-3464. If you want to chat. We're talking about the world of sports. This is the Scoreboard, moved up to the 11 o'clock hour today. I'm here broadcasting, talking to you guys. We got a lot to go over. It is the Friday before Championship Sunday in the NFL. Only 2 more sleeps until we get to watch 4 teams fight for 2 spots in the Super Bowl. I'm excited. We are, but even with that excitement, the winding down of the football season is always sad. It is. Because we have weeks of just football every single day, months of it. Even like going into last year, 2024. You have, obviously, Monday Night Football, Thursday Night Football for the NFL. But the NCAA had been playing on Tuesdays, on Wednesdays, on Fridays, and on Saturday, obviously. So it was every single day there was some football to watch. But now, the NFL season is winding down. We handed out the national championship on Monday. And we turn our attention to other sports that are going on. In the high school scene, we've been talking about the basketball stuff that's going on with men's and women's basketball, both taking place at the same time. We are going to talk some women's basketball today, so stay tuned for that. But you also pivot to other professional sports. You have the NBA, which now is about the time where most people begin turning their attention, where the general public begins turning their attention to basketball. Up until now, it's really been football heavy. You also have the NHL. So more casual fans are going to start tuning into more NHL games. And the thing about the NHL and the NBA, both leagues are now past the halfway point of the regular season. So things are starting to take place here and shaping up, and we're starting to understand who the teams that are going to be competitive come postseason are going to be. So we're going to go over the NFL. We got to talk about the weekend slate of games. We have at 3 o'clock, the Washington Commanders going to Philadelphia to play the Eagles. And then at 6:30, it is yet another rematch between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Buffalo Bills. Oh boy, am I excited for that one. I think the general public, if you were to poll people who are NFL fans and say, which championship game are you more excited for? I think more people would be excited for the Chiefs and the Bills. Not only because it's the Kansas City Chiefs that are playing and people like to watch the Chiefs lose, but this is now a saga that we've had between the Chiefs and the Bills where they play each other pretty much every year come postseason. Now, there was one year they didn't play each other. The Bills ended up getting eliminated by the Bengals before they could even get to the Chiefs. But this year, not the case. Both of the teams, the 2 best teams in the AFC this year. I'm excited. Sunday's game between the Chiefs and the Bills will be at Arrowhead Stadium in Kansas City. Now, if you look at the other game that's happening on Sunday, the Commanders and the Eagles, I think it's another one where the general public is going to be one-sided with who they want to win. I don't think the Eagles do themselves any favors of gaining fans from just general football fans because that fan base is just different. And you see it almost every week. Something comes out that the fan base did something, right? So I think most people are excited for and hoping for a Buffalo Bills-Washington Commanders Super Bowl, which would be absolutely insane. The Bills, having not been to the Super Bowl since the 90s when they went 4 straight times, lost all 4 of them. That'll never happen again. The Commanders, we are not that far removed from Dan Snyder being the worst owner in the NFL, running that team into the ground and basically making them irrelevant. The only reason they were relevant was to talk about Dan Snyder and how horribly he was running the team. Well, now you have the Commanders at 4 wins last year. Now they make the playoffs with their rookie quarterback, Jaden Daniels, and he has a chance to send the team to the Super Bowl. We'll do a little bit more in-depth analysis on the NFL games coming up this weekend. But right now, let's turn our attention to the high school basketball scene. We have some games slated for later tonight in the women's basketball scene. So let's go ahead and start things off with Statesville High School. Now, Statesville High School is on a little bit of a slide here. They've lost 3 consecutive games that dropped their record to 6-10. And their conference record is also suffering, is Statesville. In the 3A Western Foothill, they are 7th. The only team doing worse than them right now is West Iredell. Statesville is 1-6 in their conference. Now, they did have a game on Tuesday against Hickory High School. Unfortunately, like I said, within that 3-game losing streak, obviously they weren't able to win that game. 46-31, the final score. Now, they do play tonight. It's against a team in their conference that has been on an absolute tear. North Lincoln is 7-0 within the conference. They are 15-1 overall. North Lincoln lost game number 1 of the year to Lake Norman High School on the road. The score in that game was 93-25. They get blown out in game number 1 of the season. And since then, North Lincoln has rallied off 15 consecutive victories. That's good enough for first in the 3A Western Foothills. Like I said, they are undefeated in conference play. So for Statesville High School, tough matchup coming up tonight. Tip-off, 6 p.m. for Statesville and North Lincoln. Another school that's been kind of on a little bit of a struggle here recently, although in the last few games, they've been able to get a couple of wins to kind of help that record, is South Iredell. 5-12 on the year. Their conference record is a little better. They're 2-3, which isn't horrible, but with the way other teams perform in the conference, they are down in 5th place in their conference standings. South Iredell plays West Cabarrus later on tonight. West Cabarrus is 10-6. This is a game that is also going to tip off at 6 p.m. It's a home game for South Iredell. And, you know, they did lose to Lake Norman in their last matchup. It was last Friday. It's been a while since South Iredell's played. But before that, back-to-back wins. Maybe they can get 3 wins in their last 4 games. We're going to head to our first commercial break. Not done with the talk on high school basketball. Stay tuned. We're back after this.
This guy knows his sports, right? There's more of the Scoreboard with Joe Berg on the way on 105.9 100.7 WSIC.
Cold again tonight under a partly cloudy sky. Temperatures dip down into the low 20s by the time we wake up on Friday. Plenty of sunshine, and we are gradually starting to warm things up. Mid-40s are back for our Friday. We'll stay dry through the upcoming weekend and get close to 50 Saturday, even some low 50s. Woo, talk about a heat wave by the time we get to Sunday. That's your forecast from the WSIC Weather Center. I'm meteorologist Chase Myers.
The WSIC app is available now wherever you get your apps, featuring local deals from great local businesses like Nina's Boutique.
Here Here's your WSIC community calendar. Join us at Bin 110 in Cornelius on Thursday, January 23rd at 6:30 p.m. for a night of connection, conversation, and carefree vibes. It is Ladies' Night at Bin 110. Dry January? Wet January? You can sip soda or a nice glass of wine. Your choice, as the group will be happy to see you. Ladies' Night at Bin 110 in Cornelius, Thursday, January 23rd. Saturday afternoon, Soul to Soul Connection, Willow Equine, and Letters from Home are hosting a poker tournament. Registration begins at 1 p.m. at Barn Life on London Road in Mooresville. Proceeds benefit Soul to Soul Connection. Registration is at 1 p.m. The game begins at 1:30 and ends at 3:30. Cash prizes are distributed immediately to the winners. Come on out to Barn Life in Mooresville Saturday at 1 p.m. for the Soul to Soul Poker Tournament. Local star Rocky Lynn performs Saturday night at Joe V. Knox Auditorium in Mooresville. The show begins at 7:30 p.m. inside the Charles Mack Citizen Center. There will be a pre-show party at 158 on Main in downtown Mooresville. Visit experiencecmcc.com for tickets, and we will see you Saturday night at the Joe V. Knox Auditorium in Mooresville for the Rocky Lynn concert. This is the final week to lace up your skates at Brookdale on Ice, happening now through Sunday. Reservations to ensure skating time slots are accepted. Walk-ups are also welcome. Go to BrookdaleVillage.com for details, information, and tickets to Brookdale on Ice. At Charlotte Motor Speedway, the Ford Performance Racing School offers on-track driving instruction for every performance driving enthusiast, regardless of skill level or goal. All Ford Performance Racing School classes are conducted by trained, experienced, and professional instructors. Here's your chance to get your Roval on. Book now at 435-27-SPEED or visit charlottemotorspeedway.com for details and more information. To keep up with all the events happening around the community and much more, including amazing local deals, download the WSIC News app today.
It's the Scoreboard with your host, Sports Director Joe Berg on 105.9 100.7 WSIC.
Welcome back. You're listening to the Scoreboard. 844 Studio 4. I flubbed that. Let's try it again. Been a while, right? 844 Studio 4. That's 844-788-3464. If there's something on your mind that you'd like to talk about, a lot of news breaking. I got a couple of things, actually, that I saw during the commercial break. We'll get into them in a little bit. I do want to finish up talking about the local high school sports going on. We have a lot of girls basketball coming up later on tonight. Many of the schools in our area are in action, including West Iredell. Now, West Iredell has had a really rough year this year. They're really just looking to get a feel-good win or two before the season ends, because right now West Iredell is 1-16. They are 0-7 in their conference. And it's kind of been the trend for West Iredell recently. The girls basketball program has not seen very much success. The last time they were even close to a 500 record was actually back in the 2019-2020 season, where they went 11-14. Since then, a lot of one-win seasons. There's a no-win season in there, so it's been a rough stretch for the West Iredell Warriors and the girls basketball program. But nonetheless, they are in action later on tonight. They'll be at St. Stephen's High School home stadium. St. Stephen's is 6-11 this year within the conference, though. They're doing okay. Definitely better than what West Iredell has going on. 3-4, which is good for right smack in the middle of the 3A Western Foothills Conference. So a game against West Iredell, if they can get it done, bring their conference record to 500. You never know what happens when you get to the bids for the conference tournament. But West Iredell, they are in action tonight. 6:15 is going to be the tip-off of this game at St. Stephen's High School in Hickory. Now, one of the schools, and there are a few of them that are having really good years this year. One of those schools is North Iredell. The Raiders are 11-6, 4-3 within their conference. So they're also sitting right in the middle of the conference standings. everyone in front of them is a game ahead, like sequentially. You know what I mean? So Ford High School is third right now. They are one game ahead of North Iredell. East Lincoln is second. They're one game ahead of Ford. North Iredell's first. They're one game ahead of East Lincoln. So everybody's separated by a game here. Still a long way to go, and by no means are the final standings set yet. There's still a lot of shuffling that can be done. And North Iredell, they did get a win in their last game, 69-16 victory against West Iredell, but they've lost a few important games here, including a loss to East Lincoln a few days ago. I think that was last Friday. And then back way at the beginning of January, they lost to North Lincoln. So losing to the teams that are ahead of them, not the best recipe for success, but they're still having a very good year. Now, the team that is one game ahead of them, Ford High School, is their opponent tonight, actually. Tonight is the game. Ford High School will be visiting North Iredell. The tip-off for this game is 6 o'clock. Now, in case you missed it, Ford High School is 10-7 overall. They're 5-2 within the 3A conference, the 3A Western Foothills Conference. That's going to be a big game if North Iredell can get it done and get a win against the team that's one spot ahead of them. They'll jump over Ford High School. They'll move into third place in the 3A Western Foothills Conference, which now you're only a game behind second, and then you're a couple of games behind the conference leaders. You never know what can happen later in the season. You still have to play the teams that are ahead of you. So North Iredell still has a game against North Lincoln coming up. They still have a game against East Lincoln coming up, and both of those schools are still in front of North Iredell. One thing that does hurt North Iredell a little bit is earlier this year, before we went on the winter break in the schools around the area, North Iredell did play Ford High School at Ford High School, and they lost that game. So they need to split. They need to split the season series if they're going to have a chance to move up in these conference standings, because a loss right now, and they don't completely make their bed, but it's going to be really hard. Even if they win out, it's going to be really hard for North Iredell to move up in the conference standings anymore from where they are. So a huge game tonight against Ford High School. It's going to be at North Iredell's home court, if you will. 6 p.m. is when the tip-off will be. Now, moving down into the Lake Norman area, a little bit farther south of those schools, let's start with the Mooresville Blue Devils, because I'm still surprised at the year that they're having. Right now, Mooresville's girls basketball team is 6-10. They are 2-4 in the 4A Greater Metro. And this is a little bit surprising to me, because I'm used to Mooresville having really good teams, always competing with Lake Norman, especially in the football scene, but basketball as well, and other sports as well. Now, Mooresville did play Lake Norman a few days ago, and it was not pretty. Lake Norman ended up winning that game 90-29. So it just goes to show you right now who the class of the 4A Greater Metro is, and that is Lake Norman High School. Lake Norman High School is currently 15-1 on the season. They have won their last 7 basketball games. The only loss came with an out-of-conference game against Hebron Christian School. Now, Hebron Christians, we've talked about them a little bit before. They're in Georgia. So I'm not too worried about the implications of losing that game and how they stack up on the teams in this area, because every time they've played somebody in North Carolina, they've gotten the win. So a big game coming up later on tonight for them as well is Mooresville, as they play on Cox Mill Home Stadium at 6 p.m. Now, I don't think that Mooresville's really going to have a chance to move up in their conference standings at 2-4. Yeah, you have a couple of teams that are about a game ahead of you, but Hickory Ridge and Lake Norman have just been on such a tear in that conference this year. They're the class of the field right now. maybe something happens when you get to the conference tournament. Maybe all it takes is one game, right? But right now, it's not looking like it's going to be a great season for Mooresville High School. They're 4 games under 500. They just got blown out by Lake Norman a couple of days ago. But now's the time to turn it around. And if they can get the win at Cox Mill High School later on tonight, that's going to be a big one. And it's going to jump them. They're going to jump ahead of Cox Mill in the standings if they can get the win tonight. Tip-off for that game, 6 p.m. And we were just talking about them. Lake Norman, they're the only team really that's not in action tonight. Their next game is going to be Tuesday when they take on A.L. Brown at their home stadium. And it's really just another game where Lake Norman's going to go out there and do what they do. A.L. Brown not having a great year. They have not won a single conference game yet this year, and they are 4-12 overall. So it looks like Lake Norman really has a chance to put a stranglehold on this 4A Greater Metro Conference. Now, Hickory Ridge does have one loss on the year within the conference standings, and that loss came to Lake Norman. So they still have to play one more time. And if Hickory Ridge does end up getting that win, it makes the conference standings a little bit tighter. But the way it seemed here as of late, with the way that this Lake Norman's girls basketball team has been playing, nobody's really going to catch them. I mean, they have scored 1,169 points, and they've only allowed 507. That is a spread right there. They are more than doubling up their opponents on the season. Lake Norman not in action tonight. They resume next week. And that really wraps up kind of the area for the local basketball scene. There's a few schools that we're going to be keeping our eye on as we get into conference tournament and playoff time. But for the most part, some of the schools in this area, they have been struggling and things just haven't been all that great. Moving on from that, I want to talk about a couple of things that have dropped in the news here this afternoon. One of them being the news that just got released about 30 minutes ago. Pete Carroll. Do we remember Pete Carroll? He's been out of coaching for a year or two now. I think it might be 1 year that he's out. But Pete Carroll, after being in the front office with Seattle for a little bit, has now agreed to become the next head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders. Yes, Pete Carroll, 73 years young, and he is going to be a head coach again for the Raiders. Now, this is an interesting one. We heard quite a bit of rumors and whispers that the Raiders were really trying to get Ben Johnson, the offensive coordinator, the former offensive coordinator, I should say, for the Lions. He ends up going to the Bears, which is crazy that somebody said no to Brady. Because remember, Brady now owns stake within the Raiders organization. So somebody said no to Brady, first of all. And they had to fall back. And that fallback is Pete Carroll. Now, it's not a bad hiring. I had a feeling that he was going to be back in coaching. But I guess the question for the Raiders is, what is the plan? You don't really have a quarterback. You don't really have the best draft pick. What is the plan? We'll see what Pete Carroll's able to do with that Raiders team. We're coming up on the halfway point on this special 11 o'clock edition of the Scoreboard. When we return, we're going to dive deep into these conference championship games. Don't go anywhere. We are back after this.
More of Sports Director Joe Berg's The Scoreboard is coming up on 105.9 100.7 WSIC.
Cold again tonight under a partly cloudy sky. Temperatures dip down into the low 20s by the time we wake up on Friday. Plenty of sunshine, and we are gradually starting to warm things up. Mid-40s are back for our Friday. We'll stay dry through the upcoming weekend and get close to 50 Saturday, even some low 50s. Woo, talk about a heat wave by the time we get to Sunday. That's your forecast from the WSIC Weather Center. I'm meteorologist Chase Myers.
Hi, This is Bob McIntosh with the McIntosh Law Firm in Davidson. Since 1997, we have been committed to providing our clients with competent, caring, and experienced legal services. Learn more at McIntoshLawFirm.com.
Pomodoros of Mooresville is now under new ownership. Come see why Pomodoros is what everyone in Mooresville is talking about. View the full menu now at Pomodoros.com or taste for yourself at Pomodoros of Mooresville.
I'm Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I learned about atrial fibrillation the hard way. My symptoms would come and go. Shortness of breath, fatigue. I kept going. Then I got so lightheaded, I couldn't. My doctor said I have AFib, so I'm about 5 times more likely to have a stroke. Other symptoms, irregular heartbeat, heart racing, chest pain can come and go, but the risk of stroke stays. If you have symptoms, tell a doctor. Visit NoTimeToWait.com.
Sponsored by Bristol-Myers Squibb and Pfizer.
This is a story of the one. As a maintenance specialist for university housing, he knows college students can major in wear and tear. Plus, housing so many students doesn't leave a lot of room to house all the supplies he needs. That's where Grainger comes in. With over 1 million industrial-grade products and fast, dependable delivery, Grainger carries the quality products he needs so he doesn't have to. From a new door hinge to a whole new faucet. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
It ain't easy being number one, but we make it look good.
WSIC.
This is a Bloomberg Money Minute. People just aren't drinking like they used to, at least not the brands owned by Diageo. The company behind labels including Johnnie Walker, Smirnoff, Bailey's, and a host of others has suffered from falling sales, especially in the U.S. and China. Now sources tell Bloomberg Diageo is considering a portfolio downsizing, which along with its plan to sell Ciroc vodka, formerly backed by Diddy, could include a sale or spin-off of Guinness, which likely would be valued north of $10 billion. The slowest year for U.S. home sales in decades ended with a bit of an upswing. The Realtors Association says sales of pre-owned homes increased to more than expected 2.2% in December, even as the median sales price climbed 6%. It means 3 straight months with home sales up, but sales for all of 2024 came in at the lowest since 1995. Wall Street's indexes lower, Dow losing 0.25%, NASDAQ and S&P 500 each down 0.1%. Andrew O'Day, Bloomberg Radio.
Who is this? This is 105.9 100.7.
WSIC. Local starts here.
Now more of the Scoreboard with Joe Berg on 105.9 100.7 WSIC.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is the halfway point here on the Scoreboard. Yes, you're listening to the Scoreboard here at the special 11 o'clock hour. 844 Studio 4. That's 844-788-3464. Anything on your mind that you want to chat about, anything about the world of sports, I'm here for you. We got about 25 minutes left. There's a lot of news that's been breaking here recently, including some injury news. This is a big one regarding NFL Championship weekend. It has been reported that Taylor Rapp, the safety for the Buffalo Bills, is injured. He will be out of Sunday's championship game versus the Chiefs, which means the rookie, Cole Bishop, will be the starting safety for the Buffalo Bills on Sunday. That is a big loss. Taylor Rapp had one of the interceptions on Sunday against the Ravens. Man, I can't believe how that one went. I still can't believe that Lamar Jackson threw 4 interceptions on the entire season. Throughout the entire regular season, only 4 interceptions. And he threw half that amount in one game in the divisional round. Man. Some other things that are happening around the world of sports before we get into these conference championship games. Ohio State running back Quinshon Judkins is leaving college to go to the NFL. I am pretty surprised about that, to be honest with you. He's a junior, has another year of eligibility, and I would have thought, especially the way that things are going right now in college sports, it's surprising to me to see a player not stay to get the check in NIL money. Especially somebody like Quinshon Judkins, who had 1,000 yards rushing this year. I think he's one of the most talented players in college football. But nonetheless, we have a running back declaring for the NFL draft. We have a caller into the studio here looking to chat on the scoreboard, so let's go ahead and do that now. Good morning, caller. You're on the scoreboard. What do you got for me today?
Good morning, Mr. Joe Berg.
Hey, good morning to you.
Listen, has this been a change in the program? Is you going to be coming on at this time now or what?
It seems like for today, the 11 o'clock hour, it seems like on Friday, we're going to change it up a little bit. I'm going to be here at 11 o'clock for now.
Well, I tell you what, you heating up Statesville up in here. You know what I'm saying? So I just want to call and let you know that you're heating things up in here.
Absolutely.
And I appreciate you. You know, like I said, I appreciate you and all your experience and everything. Then what you do. You do a good job, Doc. I just want to tell you that.
Thank you very much. I always appreciate the kind words from you.
All right, then. Have a good one, Doc.
You as well. Thanks for calling in today, and I appreciate that. Yeah, so today, and I believe for the near future at least, it looks like we're going to have the scoreboard at 11 o'clock. It'll also rerun later in the day as well, so just keep that in mind. Anyway, we had Quinshon Judkins decide to go to the NFL. I haven't seen what the thought process is on where he's going to be drafted, but right now, Mel Kiper Jr., who I use for a lot of my draft rankings because he's one of not only the most popular, but he does have very good draft rankings. He has Judkins as the number 5 overall running back in the upcoming draft. So, like I said, I might have stayed for another year if I was. Why not? You're at Ohio State. You just won the national championship. Why not run it back, right? Why not run it back? Some other things going on. Here's one out of the NHL. This one is going to have some implications. The Utah Hockey Club said it still expects to announce a permanent name and identity before the 2025-2026 season, despite having the Utah Yetis refused by the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office. So here's the quote from the president of hockey operations, Chris Armstrong. Since acquiring Utah's NHL team, we have been carefully evaluating possibilities for the permanent identity of the team while working within the complicated world of trademarks and intellectual property. Ryan Miller of KSL.com reported in Utah that the USPTO rejected a trademark application from the team for the Utah Yetis because of the, quote, likelihood of confusion for consumers and other companies and brands to use that name, end quote. I don't know where the confusion would be. Man, they had a vote. And it seems like the Yeti won. And they were looking to use the Yetis. But the patent office also said that the Utah Yeti would not be accepted because, quote, the single or plural form of a registered mark is essentially identical in sound, appearance, meaning, and commercial impression, and thus the marks are confusingly similar. Among the parties that were mentioned as a possible confusion are the Yeti Coolers LLC, which, if you don't know, they make drinkware. I don't know what the fallback is. I didn't see the results of the final vote for the trademark of the team, but the finalists, remember there were 6 finalists. We actually did this live on air last year. We voted for the team name together. The Utah Blizzard, the Utah Hockey Club, which is what they are now, the Utah Mammoths, the Utah Outlaws, the Utah Venom, and the Yeti, or Yetis. Out of those, maybe the Outlaws. I don't really like any of them. I wasn't even big on Utah Yeti to begin with. Why the alliteration? It's not needed. But this is going to have some implications. We might have another year of the Utah Hockey Club before we get a permanent name. Now, I know we're going to get into it. We're going to talk about what we've all been waiting for today. We have to preview the NFL Championship weekend, starting with the Commanders and the Eagles. Now, here's where these teams stack up. The Eagles had the number 8 ranked offense in the NFL. The Commanders had the number 7 ranked offense. The Eagles had the number 1 defense in the league, whereas the Commanders had the number 13 defense. Passing stats-wise, the Eagles were one of the worst in the league. 29th overall in passing, whereas the Commanders were 17th. And rushing, both of these teams ran the rock very well. We all know about Saquon Barkley and what his year was. The Eagles were 2nd in the NFL in rushing, where the Commanders were 3rd in the NFL in rushing. Now, for the Commanders, if they're going to win this game, it really comes down to one thing. Stopping the 2,000-yard rusher. Stopping Saquon Barkley. If you can stop Saquon Barkley and get out to a quick 2-possession lead, you have a really good chance because, like we just mentioned, the Eagles do not have a good passing game. And even though he's playing for an NFC Championship game, Jalen Hurts is not a great quarterback. He's serviceable, I'd say. And you can see it. I mean, they have weapons. They have A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith there. Like, they have weapons. You have Saquon out of the backfield. Why is the passing game so bad? Well, it's because your quarterback he could be better. He could be a lot better. So if you're the Commanders and you're able to stop the Eagles' rushing attack early in this game and get a couple of 3-and-outs and maybe score on your first drive and put a field goal up on your second drive, get a 10-point lead to start, you're going to have a much higher chance of success at beating this Eagles team because they are not built to play from behind. The Eagles are built to run the ball down your throat, score, and play great defense. But if they can't do that, they're going to have to throw the ball, and that's where they start to get into trouble. We'll talk a little bit more about these 2 NFL games coming up on Sunday, and we'll send you into the weekend. One more segment here on the Scoreboard. Happy Friday, everyone. We're back after this.
Keep it right here. We'll have more of the Scoreboard with Joe Berg in just a moment from 105.9 100.7 WSIC.
Cold again tonight under a partly cloudy sky. Temperatures dip down into the low 20s by the time we wake up on Friday. Plenty of sunshine, and we are gradually starting to warm things up. Mid-40s are back for our Friday. We'll stay dry through the upcoming weekend and get close to 50 Saturday, even some low 50s. Woo, talk about a heat wave by the time we get to Sunday. That's your forecast from the WSIC Weather Center. I'm meteorologist Chase Myers.
Here's your WSIC community calendar. Join us at Bin 110 in Cornelius on Thursday, January 23rd at 6:30 p.m. for a night of connection, conversation, and carefree vibes. It is Ladies' Night at Bin 110. Dry January? Wet January? You could sip soda or a nice glass of wine. Your choice, as the group will be happy to see you. Ladies' Night at Bin 110 in Cornelius, Thursday, January 23rd. Saturday afternoon, Soul to Soul Connection, Willow Equine, and Letters from Home are hosting a poker tournament. Registration begins at 1 p.m. at Barn Life on London Road in Mooresville. Proceeds benefit Soul to Soul Connection. Registration is at 1 p.m. The game begins at 1:30 and ends at 3:30. Cash prizes are distributed immediately to the winners. Come on out to Barn Life in Mooresville Saturday at 1 p.m. for the Soul to Soul Poker Tournament. Local star Rocky Lynn performs Saturday night at Joe V. Knox Auditorium in Mooresville. The show begins at 7:30 p.m. inside the Charles Mack Citizen Center. There will be a pre-show party at 158 on Main in downtown Mooresville. Visit experiencecmcc.com for tickets, and we will see you Saturday night at the Joe V. Knox Auditorium in Mooresville for the Rocky Lynn concert. This is the final week to lace up your skates at Brookdale on Ice, happening now through Sunday. Reservations to ensure skating time slots are accepted. Walk-ups are also welcome. Go to brookdalevillage.com for details, information, and tickets to Brookdale on Ice. At Charlotte Motor Speedway, the Ford Performance Racing School offers on-track driving instruction for every performance driving enthusiast, regardless of skill level or goal. All Ford Performance Racing School classes are conducted by trained, experienced, and professional instructors. Here's your chance to get your Roval on. Book now at 435-27-SPEED or visit charlottemotorspeedway.com for details and more information. To keep up with all the events happening around the community and much more, including amazing local deals, download the WSIC News app today.
The Scoreboard with Joe Berg continues now on 105.9 100.7 WSIC.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Final segment here on the Scoreboard. 844-STUDIO-4 is the phone number if you have something on your mind that you'd like to talk about. We're going to spend a lot of time talking about these two conference championship games coming up on Sunday. So you have the Eagles and the Commanders. Then you have the Chiefs and the Bills. And how fitting. I talked about it a little bit about the history of this Bills-Chiefs. I guess we'll call it a rivalry now. I would call it a rivalry because if it wasn't for the Kansas City Chiefs, I think the Buffalo Bills would have already been to the Super Bowl. And the reason I think that is on this day, I know we're getting ahead of ourselves with on this day in history. In 2021, Kansas City beat the Bills 38-24 in the AFC Championship game. So they've already played for the AFC Championship, these two. Obviously, Kansas City was the winner. But before we get to that game, which I know everybody's looking forward to, I'm looking forward to that one. It's probably the one I am most looking forward to. We have the Eagles and the Commanders. Now remember, in Week 16, the Eagles and the Commanders did play each other. I am not taking that game into consideration at all with the histories of these two teams. They also played in Week 11, which is a good spot to look for what the game plan for these two teams is going to be going into that game. The reason I don't really count the Week 16 game is because in that Week 16 game, Jalen Hurts ended up getting injured. Kenny Pickett played a majority of that game. Now, the Commanders did get the win. They scored 22 points in the fourth quarter to come back and get the 36-33 win, which is impressive, but that's not what they need to do this coming Sunday. They need to start with the 22 points in the first and not end with the 22 points in the fourth. Jaden Daniels in that game threw for 258 yards, 5 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. He also ran for 81 yards. The biggest thing about this game is Washington just wasn't able to run the football. They barely broke 100 yards as a team. They only ran it about 14 times in total. The Commanders absolutely need to come out firing if they're going to have a chance. You cannot go down to this team because once you are down by a score or two, it's going to be a steady dose of Saquon Barkley. And we've seen it all year. Who is stopping Saquon Barkley? They couldn't even stop him in the playoffs with the Rams. Man, 200 yards in a playoff game. In the snow, might I add. So the Eagles and the Commanders are going to be the first game on Sunday. I think the Eagles are going to win. I just think they're a better team. I find it very hard to believe that a rookie quarterback is going to lead a 4-win team to the Super Bowl, because that's what they were last year. They were a 4-win team, the Commanders. And I like I said, I just think that the Eagles are a better team. So I'm going to say I think the Eagles are going to win, but I want the Commanders to win. I think Commanders-Bills would just be so much fun. That brings us to the Bills and who they play. That's the Kansas City Chiefs. Ooh, the big bad boys of the NFL. The Chiefs looking to do what no team in the NFL has ever done, and that is win 3 consecutive Super Bowls. Let's see how they stack up against each other. The Bills had the number 10 offense in the league. The Chiefs had only the number 16 offense in the league, right in the middle of the pack. Bills, right smack in the middle on defense, the 17th best defense in the NFL. Chiefs had the 9th best defense. Passing and rushing both go to the Buffalo Bills. The Bills had the 9th best passing game and the 9th best rushing game, whereas the Chiefs had the 14th best passing game and only the 22nd best rushing year. Now, I think a lot of this has to do with some of the injuries that the Chiefs sustained throughout the year at the running back position. Remember, they had to bring Kareem Hunt in, who used to be a Kansas City Chief before he had personal problems, but now he's back in the building. Isaiah Pacheco, healthy. He's back in the building and all set to go. This is going to be an interesting one, man. The last time the Bills played the Chiefs was actually this year. It was back in November. Everybody, for the most part, were at full strength. The Chiefs were definitely missing a couple of their skill players. But Buffalo trounced them. The Bills really came up big in that game, winning 30-21. Now, we've seen it before. We've seen it, and we've seen the Bills and the Chiefs in the regular season, and the Bills are able to get it done, and they have hope, right? Hey, we can beat the Chiefs this year. It doesn't matter, though. I hate to tell you. I hate to be the one to explain that to you, but beating the Chiefs in the regular season means absolutely nothing. Because the Chiefs still have home field advantage. And you got to play them in the playoffs. That is when it matters. It doesn't matter in the regular season. Yeah, sure, it mattered at the time because we were still trying to figure out what the seeding was going to be in the AFC. And that's what mattered. The game itself, the way, cool. You beat the Chiefs in the regular season. Thumbs up to you. But you got to beat them when it counts. And now is when it counts. And we have still yet to see the Buffalo Bills slay that dragon. This is a year for Buffalo where a lot of people, including myself, thought that they were going to have a down year. They lost a few of their key tenured defensive pieces. They trade Stephon Diggs. The wide receiver room is nothing like it was. Remember, they used to have a really good receiver room. They had Gabe Davis had his 4-touchdown game. I think that was yesterday on this day in history. We talked about that. You had Gabe Davis. You had, we just talked about him getting traded, Stephon Diggs. That's a good receiver room right there. That's a good 1-2 punch. And then they had Isaiah McKenzie as the slot. That's a good receiving core. Now, it's like, yeah, we have receivers, Khalil Shakir and Coleman. Yeah, they're good players, but they're not stars, which the Bills did have. And it could be a case of addition by subtraction. You got rid of a receiver who might have been the distraction. It might have been him. I always think of that photo of Diggs standing on the sideline after they lost to the Chiefs in the championship game, just kind of watching. Nothing ever came of that. Diggs really, he's kind of a nuisance to that team, it seems. They're better without him. We have a caller into the studio here. Let's go ahead and take that before we're off air for the day. Good morning, caller. You are on the scoreboard. What do you have for me today?
Am I live?
Yes, you are live on the scoreboard.
Yes. I have quite a bit of stuff for sale. My address is...
I'm sorry, sir. This is not the home ad show. You did miss the home ad show. It's from 9 to 11. So if you want to give us a call back on Monday between 9 and 11, we'll be sure to get you on air.
So what are we talking about today?
Right now we're doing sports. This is the Scoreboard. My name is Joe Berg. And I was just...
I know nothing about sports.
Oh, no. Do you know who's playing this Sunday?
I am going to watch that game. I believe, I think it's, I never did watch the last game, so I don't know who won the other.
That's all right. Not a problem. But hey, if you call back on Monday between 9 and 11, we'll be able to get you on the home ad show and get you your stuff on air.
Not a problem, sir. I appreciate it.
You have a wonderful weekend, and thanks for calling WSIC. Let's see. So, Bills-Chiefs, I got the Bills winning. I do. I'm sticking with it. I've said for a while now, Bills are going to the Super Bowl. I didn't say that in preseason. I thought that the Bills were going to be worse than they are. I had the Bengals going to the Super Bowl. Neither of my Super Bowl picks this year made it. Last year, I got one of them right. I got the 49ers. But... yeah, I got the Bills winning. I think they finally slay that dragon, and I think the ideal matchup for me, personally, I would like to see the Bills play the Commanders. I think that would be a very fun Super Bowl. I think the worst Super Bowl we could have as a country would be the Chiefs and the Eagles. I don't think anybody wants that. Kind of like when the Eagles played the Patriots and nobody wanted that. I hope we're going to end up, it's going to be Chiefs-Eagles, isn't it? Oh, man. We got to deal with that. Let's go to this day in history before we get out of here for the day. On this day, 2016, the Carolina Panthers beat the Arizona Cardinals 49-15 to send them to the Super Bowl as they win in Bank of America Stadium in the NFC Championship. Been chasing that high ever since. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in this week. It's been a really fun one. I'm going to be glued to the screen on Sunday. We'll get into basketball and hockey later. It's football time. Until Monday, you guys have a good one. And see ya.
Serving you better than ever before.